My name is Tim Deits. I'm 17 years old. I really like to play hockey. That's my thing. Love to work out, just hang out with friends. And I was pretty muscular, if I do say so myself. I was good. I was living the life, good California life.
Timmy's always been a bright spot in our family. He gets up, he loves surfing, he loves going to the beach, he loves hockey. He's constantly, keeping us moving and frankly keeping us young because he's a teenager.
Tim had asked if he could have some friends come over just to be here while he worked out, and he would leave the garage door halfway open. So when we returned home, I didn't see anybody here. So I went into the garage, and that's when I found him laying on the floor. I went up to him and spoke his name. I shook him and he didn't respond. And so I yelled out to Ted, something's wrong with Tim. He quickly began CPR and I called 911.
It was just a matter of just act. You gotta do what you gotta do to save your son, because I noted that there was no pulse, there was no breathing, his earlobes were blue and his skin was gray, and I knew something was seriously wrong. But we didn't have time to think of why or what was going on, just to support him, to get him here and to get him to the hospital.
I actually was called by our intensivist, Bahram Alavi, about a 16-year-old in our emergency room in heart failure and was dying. One, we had to first figure out what the problem was, and we knew his right ventricle was causing the majority of his problems, but also how was the left ventricle doing? Several key team players were brought on board. He had his cardiologist that was called in the emergency room, Dr. Ray Gandhi.
He was having all this ventricular arrhythmias. Blood pressure was dropping, and when you have a cardiac arrest where it's not witnessed, the prognosis is very poor. He was 16 years old, so we decided, let's give it full effort here, and then we'll worry about the rest later.
As far as the Impella is concerned, myself and Dr. Mahmoud Islami, another interventional cardiologist like Dr. Gandhi, he and I had done training probably about a month and a half before this on insertion of the device.
In Tim's case, he was primarily having right-sided heart failure or cardiogenic shock, to the point that the right side of his heart was not functioning well and was not pushing the blood out of the right side to the lungs. So because of Tim's condition and what was happening to him, the treating physicians at the time felt that a right-sided Impella would be appropriate.
So Tim was mobilized to the hybrid room where both the right-sided and left-sided devices were placed.
And we took him upstairs to ICU. Within 45 minutes, he showed significant signs of improvement.
Some of the end organs that Tim had already been shutting down, like his kidneys and his liver, once the devices went in, he started to get renal recovery, so his kidneys started making urine, and his liver's numbers started to improve. So everything the devices intended to do was working.
The next day they moved him up to his room. He was on the Impellas, and the doctors were educating me as far as how the Impella works. And their hope was, over the next few days, that they would be able to reduce the dependence upon the Impellas, and then eventually take the Impellas out, and then Timmy's heart would take over. And the whole idea is for the Impella to allow the heart to repair itself.
The condition he has is ARVD, and it is a genetic condition, and the heart muscle on the right ventricle especially is replaced by fatty tissue or fibrofatty tissue, which is almost like scar formation, and that's why the heart becomes weak and thin and dilated.
Once we achieved end organ perfusion and good signs, we said, all right, let's start waking him up. Younger patients obviously have more reserve, and so I think we just needed to give him a shot. As long as he was fighting, we were gonna fight for him.
He's out of the coma, he's aware, he seems to be relatively sharp, and the first thing he said was, oh man, am I thirsty, and where's my phone? And we handed him his phone, and he punches in his passcode, he's texting his friends, and like, hey, Timmy's back, And it was, I believe, the next day when we actually removed the Impellas, and He was fully supported on his own heart. His heart had recovered enough to where it could beat on its own. And he was home for Thanksgiving.
It's completely changed my life. I have a whole new perspective. The medical field is just, it's so cool. There's so many ways to help people and save people, and I've been saved and I want to help others. I definitely believe in heart recovery. I'm living proof of it.